Greetings, everyone. Welcome to Long Island Sounds 3.0, the podcast. I am your host, Robert Armstrong, and you may be asking yourself, 3.0, what's that all about? Well, I've tried this podcast a couple of times before, twice before, that's why it's 3.0. And the first time, I just didn't like the format. It was all Zoom, and I had Zoom failures. It was the free edition. Maybe that had something to do with it. I'm not sure. But I had a couple of good guests. I had a writer. He just came out with his biography. I had a bass player for a up-and-coming heavy metal thrash band. And I also had a Native American artist who's making ranks within the music community, opening up for Blues Traveler for a few of his shows. But it was very time consuming in some way, shape, or form. A lot of people, they were canceling at the last minute. A lot of people they showed interest, but they just didn't make time to do it, and that's okay. So it just kind of fell to the wayside. The second time I tried to bring Long Island Sounds podcast to life, once again, it was basically it was the same thing, finding guests. I did have a theater that I got to share space with, and the setting was great. Lugging all the equipment around, it was very tedious, but it just kind of fell to the wayside. It was just, again, too much involved. I'll just put it that way. But 3.0, my third attempt, and the reason why I'm bringing this to 3.0 is it's going to be a very casual podcast here on Long Island, and I have recently been, if I actually did a podcast, or if I do interviews, I do have my website, www.longislandsounds.org, which is the actual the blog website. I do articles, I do reviews for shows that are here on Long Island, and I think there's a lot of potential. I think, and also there's been quite a few artists that have wished that there was a little bit more outreach. One thing that really bothers me is the lack of promotion, and I'm not exactly sure if it's a lack of promotion. One of my buddies, he's a promoter, and he has it was brought to his attention as well that why didn't I hear, or one of the comments on an up and coming show, like the day of or something like that, and somebody had said, why haven't I heard about that? I'm like, that's a good question. Why haven't you heard about it? Because I've been posting about this quite frequently. And he does. I've seen his Facebook page, and I know he does put a lot of effort into getting his bands promoted. So moving forward with my podcast, it is the intent on getting the local artists that are trying to get their recognition out there. And there's so many bands out there with a lot of talent. Long Island is known for stellar talent. There's so many to choose from. Billy Joel, Jerry Seinfeld. I just learned that Brian Setzer is from, I don't know why I just learned, he's been around since the 80s. But there's so many, even down in the Southamptons, there's some bands out there or artists out there that have houses and stuff. I'm not saying that they're going to be guests, but never say never. I'm not going to be Anthony Mason or Dan Rather or Eddie Trunk. Although to get to that level, that would be one thing. But I did state that this is going to be a hobby. Right now, all the podcasts will be put on my YouTube channel, and you can find that at Long Island Sounds on YouTube. It's got a picture of a guitar, and I'll put those podcasts there, and I'll put them on my Facebook, Long Island Sounds Facebook page. And right now, I have an astounding 167 subscribers to my YouTube channel. So I think baby steps are what is called for. This is obviously my pilot episode, so I'm just going to take the time to introduce Long Island Sounds podcast. Just today I'm going to be calling it 3.0, but from here on out it'll be the Long Island Sounds podcast. When I do have guests on, it will be kind of like a one-on-one type thing. Right now, I do have the equipment. Right now, today I'm just doing it off my phone, and then I'm gonna dump it onto my computer and edit as I see fit. But there's so much that I can do, so much that I want to do, but to be all-encompassing and to make a podcast production. You got lighting, you've got scenery, you've got audio. There's a lot of things that go into a podcast that people just don't understand. All they see is basically what's on the screen. They don't see the behind the scenes. And I do know what it takes to make a successful podcast, and that's kind of like comes back from my education back in the 90s. When I was doing video production, and so I know about lighting, I know about the audio, and we'll get into that some other time. But right now, I just want to lay the groundwork. I want to throw some ideas out there. Again, I stated that Long Island has a lot of potential artists, up-and-coming artists. I'm not going to name any names on this particular episode, but I wouldn't mind getting them on the podcast, whether it's a Zoom, or if it's at one of the venues. That's another thing too. Once growing from 167 subscribers to 500 subscribers to 1,000 subscribers, I know that's going to take time. But the more I get followers, the more, depends on the feedback, depends on the growth, the velocity of the growth for the podcast. Once I get to 1,000, then it's going to be, I can pack up my studio gear and go on location. Once I start making a name of, Long Island Sounds, maybe the studios, maybe the stages, the venues will be more open to hold their podcasts there. And that's kind of like what I'm aiming for. There's a lot of artists that come here. Some of the theaters, there's also different tiers of venues. Like, for example, if I've got an up-and-coming band, if they're playing at Katie's in Smithtown, or if they're playing at Bobby Q, or Daisy's, or someplace that's a good place to get started, we can go on location if the venue is open for that. Not only the venue had to be open for that, but what are you giving me? It's always a handshake deal. But if I have 1,000 subscribers, then they're obviously going to be getting some sort of advertisement. And once I get to 5,000 followers, then it turns around and say, I'll come to your event, but it's going to cost you this much, or to your venue. There's been places like, for example, the Suffolk Theater, or the Bolton Theater, even Patchogue. There's a lot of larger venues that have the Paramount in Huntington. They have national tours that come through their venues, and it would be great to sit in their green room and do a one-on-one interview And even if I just come home and sit here and talk to you like I am right now, and then just show clips, like, I had the opportunity to speak to KK Downey, for example. Melissa Etheridge is coming up next month. If I sat down with her, or if I do a Zoom, it'd just be a matter of, I had the opportunity to speak to and then show the clip or show the interview. But that's kind of like what I ultimately want to do, get to that level. But obviously it's going to take followers to get to that level. In the meantime, like I said, I do have some artists. How did they get to where they are? What do they think of the music business? I do have potential guests that could not just be musicians, but maybe what in the entertainment business. How did they get to do what they're doing? And but again, it's like I said, it's baby steps. I want to get out there and promote people and promote artists that I like. I want to basically advertise or promote the venues. There's been too many times where I've been to venues and I'm just like, where is everybody? Who does the promotion and publicists? I want to help. And I mean, that's the whole thing. It's just, I'm a concert photographer. And so I'm pretty versed in what goes on, with live production, how the artists come from the garage to the small venues to the larger venues, and ultimately record deals and stuff. And what I was saying about the artists here on Long Island is Joe Satriani and Steve Vai. I'd love to have them on the show, and it's always one of those. How far do I want to go with this podcast? And I ask you that because I asked myself that because I just turned 59. Not that you need to know that, but how old's Eddie Trunk? How old's Dan Rather? How old is Anthony Mason? Now they're doing the big. Everybody knows him. They're as a musical interviewer. Dan Rather does his Access TV. I forget what his show is called, but Anthony Mason does his music interviews on CBS. Obviously, you've got Howard Stern, which is a different level. I think Eddie Trunk is a different level, but he's friends with all these people. He goes on the rock cruises. Would I like to go on a rock cruise? Yeah. Who wouldn't want to go on a rock cruise? And have all the opportunity to interview all these people, and not only that, but like I said, I'm a concert photographer, so it would be a double whammy for me. But I just the more I get out there shooting concerts and putting up reviews, and I'm getting my name out there. I'm meeting more photographers. I'd like to interview them and see, what their, how they got to where they are and what they like most about it. And, obviously the ultimate question is, who's on your bucket list to shoot? So it's always interesting talking to other photographers, and I wouldn't mind talking to the venue management, venue directors, the entertainment directors, the like I mentioned before, the Suffolk Theater, Patchogue Theater, the Bolton, Argyle, those the entertainment directors for those venues. And obviously there's the Paramount. I'm not sure if that's going to be another monster tackle. They were recently, last year, picked up by Live Nation, so they're now a Live Nation venue. So I'm not sure how the rules be restricting in regards to sitting with bands or promoting the venue, promoting the show, if I'll be able to, do a Zoom for, up for this weekend, whatchamacallit, Kenny Wayne Shepherd's going to be at the Paramount. I don't know the tickets, but a couple of weeks ago, or a month ago, you sit down with Kenny Wayne Shepherd and just say, whether it's Zoom, it would more than likely be Zoom, just say, with your upcoming show at the Paramount, it's my way of helping not just the venue, but to also get asses in the seats. This tomorrow night, I'll be shooting Joe Bonamassa at Flagstar Westbury Music Fair, and I'd like to see, what, obviously sit down with him and, promote the show, how he got started. He's one of the blues icons of today, contemporary blues icons of today. And Samantha Fish will be coming to Patchogue Theater. I'd love to sit down and talk with her, well, not with her, but with Zoom. And but again, it could go beyond that. It would be more of a once I get recognition, let's hypothetically say 10,000. Would the PR people and would the production people, would the entertainment director agree to doing a day of show interview, and then I could be edited for a later date, and people want to see that. There's a lot of times people will start their tour here on Long Island, and it just kicking out the tour. So be basic, promoting, moving forward. Good luck with the tour, and let's get those seats filled along the way. And I think that would help not only obviously to get my followers, but also to get the artists recognized, and get those venues filled, and moving in that direction. But in closing, I want to keep my podcast to approximately 20 minutes or so. And been putting a list together of the subjects that I'd like to talk to or talk about. I'm not sure what how frequent I'm going to be putting out these podcasts. I could actually record them. I could record 3 today and then just put one out today, put one out next week, and put one out the week after that. I'm not sure if it's going to be a week, every week. It could be 2 or 3 per week. That's, somebody had mentioned to me, the more you post, the more followers, the more, the algorithms work in your favor, and, people put out shorts, that's going to help the algorithms. So, but yeah, I want to keep it in closing. So I'm coming up on 20 minutes right now. So I hope you enjoyed what you heard. And if you've got any suggestions, I would most definitely love to hear from you. And if you like what you've seen, give me a follow, subscribe on my YouTube channel. Let's get those followers up. And we'll go from there, and let's keep this going this time. This Long Island Sounds 3.0. So I hope everyone takes. I need to figure out a sign off too. How do I sign off on a podcast? Until next time. I don't like that. That's too cliche. Tune in. No, that's too cliche. Keep your eyes out and your ears open, and let's see who comes into the. Yeah, well, let's build this first. So we built this podcast on rock and roll. Have a good one.